Hi, good evening, or يسعد مساكم. Hoping you are doing good. Someone asked me to talk in Arabic, so I'll try. رح أحاول أحكي شوية عربي بالlectures. هذا الطلب صراحة حمسني لأغير شوي بالتكنيك تبع الlectures، واللي هو مع بداية كل محاضرة رح يكون في سلايد مهمة إلها علاقة إما بمعلومة جديدة أو بقيمة أو بشغلة حابين أنا وياكم نعرفها ونحكي عنها سوا. والمعلومة تبعت اليوم هي واحدة من الكور تريكس of politicians، واحدة من أهم التريكس that makes politics very dangerous. This trick is ambiguity and unmeasurable issues. الأشياء غير قابلة للقياس. بمعنى لو أنا طلبت فنجان قهوة واللي عمل فنجان القهوة حط عليها معلقة سكر، ممكن أدوقها أنا حلوة وممكن أدوقها لا، بناء على أنا شو بحب. يبقى كلمة حلوة تغير تفسيرها، لأنه أنا بشرب القهوة سادة فحلوة بالنسبة إلي مش مقبولة. لو أنا بعمل كاسة شاي وأنا بشرب الشاي معلقة واحدة سكر، وبالنسبة إلي معلقة هي كفاية، فبالتالي كاسة السكر اللي فيها معلقة حلوة. لو حدا بشرب الشاي بمعلقتين 3 سكر، معلقة واحدة بالنسبة لهم مش حلوة. فكروا فيها شوي. الأشياء غير القابلة للقياس زي حلوة وشوي وطيب ومنيح are so dangerous. فكل مرة بنفكر نحكي تعالوا نفكر كيف بدنا نفكر عشان نحكي. هي المعلومة تبعت اليوم. Let's start our lecture together. Okay. Last 2 lectures we started to talk about politics in general, definitions, the scope of politics, and we started to talk a little bit about elements of politics, which was the first one, political behavior. Today, we're going to talk about something new. We're going to talk about culture and socialization and the relation between these two elements and politics. Okay, let's talk about why we do this in the first place. Actually, to be able to understand political science, we need to examine the concept of political culture. It is exactly the same when we talked about political behavior. The change in political behavior reflected itself strongly on political science, and this is exactly the same whenever we talk about culture and socialization. So, let's start talking about political culture. Political culture means the attitudes, feelings, ideas, values that people have about political science or the politics. Whatever they have in their minds towards the government and towards the law, their own role, their own attitudes, their own mindset, and more generally about authority in all its various forms. So political culture is the set of values, concepts, opinions, stereotypes we all have towards the government and the political system itself. We immediately see that every country has its own unique political culture. I suppose too that there is no country without a music, for example. People have different tastes towards the music. Sometimes this taste or attitude is confirmed by their history. For example, we in Palestine, we have this passion towards like traditional songs or towards dabka, because in a certain way it's totally connected to our identity, to our culture, and to our political case. So let's talk about political culture on a horizontal analytical level. It's so important to clarify this at the very beginning, because otherwise we may get so confused. Let's say that, for example, a country like United Kingdom has the same form of government as Jamaica. They have the same governmental structure, the same system, the same structure of ministries, etc. They have even a similar parliamentary system. But in that sense, the governmental structure in which it is very similar or maybe a little bit identical, we could never ever predict that citizens will give the same attitudes or the same mindset towards things or even towards the government itself. Um, we will be totally mistaken if we will measure human attitudes based on the formal system. Culture is formed through history, and the history of England is totally different. How an English person feels towards his or her political system is totally different from a Jamaican person feelings and attitudes. Why and how this has happened? This is exactly what we are going to know together today. Okay, it's very important to understand that political cultures is changeable, dynamic, not only across countries or among different nations, but even inside the same nation itself. Like a Palestinian individual or a Palestinian youth is not the same culture in 2080 as a Palestinian person in, for example, in the 80s or in the 90s even. What makes these changes? Let's talk about it. But before that, let's link political culture with the political behavior. Political behaviors refer to the action or inaction, what you do actually, or what you don't do in relation to politics and government. Political culture in the context refers to the dimension of ideas, beliefs, feelings, emotions, affiliations, which are in your head and your heart. And it's not easy to be measured or seen. Political behavior, in contrast, could be measured, as we talked about the voting, for example. But your feeling is invisible. Your feelings, your emotions are invisible, so they are not easy to be measured. Uh, in this sense, political culture is more difficult to be discussed and analyzed because if the person doesn't decide to translate these emotions, feelings into actions, you could never ever guess what kind of culture they have. Let's make it a little bit clear. There is an old um, speech say, by their deeds we shall know them. Let's say by their political behavior or their deeds we can know their political culture or their beliefs. This is exactly the idea of being capable to measure things or unmeasurable things. But in order to explain the changing and political behavior and political culture, we need to understand the role of the social forces that stand behind this change. Even if it's not easy to be measured, but we can agree that there are certain forces created this change in a very clear, obvious way. So, we can identify a core 5 important developments or social forces that create the significant change in the political culture. First of all, the rapid rise and level of education. Nowadays, um, the average of educated people is so high. The general level of education among most population has risen extremely rapidly within the last decades. This means We have more mature people, more people with better skills. And here we are talking about not only level of education, but a new equality of education, new system of education, which enable people not only to learn, but also to analyze and produce knowledge. And this is exactly a core reason why people can produce new knowledge um, away from what a government or political system offer. The second factor is accessing to information. Why do, why do you think accessing to information is a core factor in changing? Actually, what we don't know is exactly our enemy. We have often heard it said that we live in the information era or the information age. What this means simply is that information is coming to us from every direction. We have a multiple dimension of sources of information. It's not the government anymore who can offer us the information. It's vice versa. Governments are forced to offer information for people and to offer a level of transparency to be able to continue in the system. It's not anymore uh, the siege of knowledge. Nowadays, the dimension of information and accessing information even turned to be one of the core elements in the human rights that UN and all human rights agencies are demanding. A third element would be population movements. Let's talk about the previous decades when people used to live in one particular geographic area. They don't move, they don't integrate with others, they don't meet their peers from other nations. They are only restricted to whatever the noble people or the government or the church or the mosque or the empire offer. When people started to travel, things changed. The net effect of increased travel, migration, or even tourism is greater exposure to different ideas, to different ways of thinking and acting, and undermining of that which was considered traditional. More people now are seeing and experiences directly and testing directly other cultures, other experiences, other ideas, other innovative tracks they could even never heard or know before. A fourth element actually could be the opportunity structure. As you know, with the explosion of world and the industrial revolution and all the changes in the political and economic system, especially in the last 15 to 20 years, there have been increased inequalities in almost every single country and every single domain. It's not only about politics, it's about opportunities in general. This means that during these years, worldwide, the way economies have been restructured and the way societies have reorganized have widened the gap between the few at the top and the majority in the middle and even a huge majority in the bottom inside the society. The uh, let's see this like as if you are decided to divide the countries or the society into three dimensions. People in the top, part of them are the government, people in the middle, and a majority in the bottom of the community. Uh, the gap creating more needs, the needs induce or push people to work and learn more and to be more passionate and more powerful to seek for why this gap is even existed. Unfortunately, the opportunities for people in the bottom of the community or in the bottom of the social pyramid has been negatively affected. as inequality has grown, so has a huge discrimination, dissatisfaction. People are feeling there is a kind of discrimination and a huge dissatisfaction about the roles and rights. This is all lead to maybe changes, movement, a lot of restructuring the community itself and the political system itself. And the most interesting part here, it's not all about attitudes or behaviors. No, in this level exactly, it's about obtaining new beliefs, a new set of rights, and new roles. It's not like I should accept my role in the community wherever I am, in the bottle or in the middle. No, people are changing in the way they estimate themselves and see themselves in the community. Okay, we discussed the core factors that affect and determine the relation between culture and political science in a way. But to be honest, there are maybe tens of factors, but we decided to talk about the more measurable factor, the most visible factors. Now we're going to talk about the relation between political science and socialization. But, as I promised, we are going to have a puzzle. You're going to see a number 1, 3, 2, 5. What do you think this is? Why do you think I'm asking you about this number? And I need you to search and tell me, what does this number stand for? Is it a phone number? Is it a luck number? Is it, I don't know. You're going to tell me. Back to our lecture. Okay, let's talk about politics and socialization. Actually, political socialization is a process by which an individual, a person, a citizen, gets knowledge about political system, about political values and beliefs. Political socialization helps the individuals to recognize themselves, to give themselves an identity within the political system in general, and to introduce themselves as part of a system that they are fully aware of. Okay, political socialization also may be defined as the process whereby society develops attitudes and feelings towards politics and towards governments in each of their members. Political socialization, in other words, is political upbringing. Each of us has a political upbringing. Therefore, while we look at social causes in general, we also need to look at our individual political upbringing, our individual political socialization. And looking at individual political socialization, we will distinguish between two levels, primary and secondary. And the primary level, it's the basic ideas and the basic data and information we receive. And the secondary level, we are going to be exposed to cases, ideas, topics. It could be irrelevant to us immediately, but definitely we will be affected by it. Let's talk about the core characteristics of political socialization. So, number one, it's a process. Political socialization is a universal process. As we said before, nothing is going on inside the borders of your country in a separate way anymore. It's all about a huge formula among all over the world. Number three, political socialization is a continuous dynamic process. Like we never stop growing up, we never stop creating ideas, we never stop having feelings toward things, and this is exactly what political socialization about. It also can be very manifest or legend. Political socialization is both formal and informal. With the process of political socialization, political culture passes on from one generation to another. And this is very dangerous. And this is exactly from the stereotypes and the previous image and preconceptions that we used to refuse. Political socialization differs from a state to another based on the history of forming these nations. Actually, we have two types of political socialization. One is direct and the other is indirect. Direct political socialization, it's the process in which the content of the transmitted information is going on the formal channels, is very political. An individual under the influence of family, teachers, or agencies explicitly learn about the patterns or functions about the government and the ideology and the political system itself through formal channels. The experiences with the government institutions and maybe governmental schools is very dangerous because it is directed towards certain ideas, certain beliefs. Citizens start to believe exactly what the government wants them to believe. While in direct political socialization, in this track, people are trying to gain information from indirect political institute, like peers, like other channels that are totally informal. This is actually more dangerous because in most cases it's uncontrolled and it's not organized. In the direct political socialization, usually governments or political parties control that track. In the second track, in the indirect political socialization, it could be an integration of many factors and many channels, and this is make it more difficult to be controlled. Actually, interpersonal communication of information, values, and attitudes, and acquisition of skills, techniques, and non-political activities may end into creating political tendencies, may end in creating individual tendencies that will be transformed into political socialization and political system or political mindset for the citizens later on. This kind of transformation is controlled or led by certain agents. Let's see if we're gonna analyze all these agents, a common idea that stands behind each agent of this is that each agent is controlled by their backgrounds, cultural, political, and economic backgrounds. So the core element here is to which distance citizens are aware to differentiate how to gain the information and to gain knowledge and skills from these agents, and to which level they can filter things that they receive from these agents. Let's talk about a very interesting actually agent like speeches by great leaders, for example, or like an international leader or a civic leader that could be an idol for the citizen and change his or her way of thinking. Or, for example, a personal experience. For example, a young youth or a young male or female experienced a bad experience towards something, it would create a new mindset towards the political system as whole. For example, if I went to the hospital and I find a good doctor and they treated me in a good way, I will have a good idea about the health, the health sector. While if I go to the same hospital and another doctor treated me in insufficient way, I will have a bad idea about the entire health sector because people tending for the generalization mindset. Okay, what is the importance of political socialization? First of all, it brings enlightenment for our thinking. It brings efficiency and working and the relation between citizens and political system. It provides legitimacy to political system. It's very helpful to gain information and to build culture. It's very helpful in maintaining the culture itself. It's prepare people to be more active within their communities and within their political system. Actually, it provides link between political system and the social system. It provides a clearer knowledge about the political issues. It allows people to be more involved in the system in general. It also provides stability to the political system, and this is the core most important element or function which the government use political socialization for. In conclusion, if we're going to talk about political socialization and culture, they are so risky because it's not about something major. As we discussed a minute ago, it's very dangerous because one situation, one experience could change the entire mindset of the person. So even the government could never control people or citizens forever. They should do great job to obtain and keep the track of the effects sustainable. And the other side, the huge number of agents make it so difficult for one particular agent to have that great impact on citizens. Nowadays, um, the integration of agents, especially social media and especially civic engagement like campaigns, advocacy campaigns, the international campaigns even, everything that people could be exposed to through social media or through internet could immediately change their tendency and mindset. It could also change the entire affiliation for people. Um, I want to raise a question with you. Some people say that social media um, had played a huge role in Rabi' al-Arabi. Do you agree? Do you think was it a tool or a channel? Do you think political science now is totally different and totally uncontrolled by government? Do you think political science is a new kind of art that each smart player can control? To which distance economics still have a key role in this? Actually, our lecture for today is almost over. I just wanna remind you with a quiz, and I want you to see things in a different way. Thanks for watching this. I know it's not easy to only listen to some video for more than like 30 minutes. So thank you a lot. Hoping you're doing great. And please remember, be safe. And also remember, things are not what you see, it's exactly what you want to see. Be safe.